2019. Again, the reason they do this is a Washington, D.C. trip, and they need to set up a charter bus and get everything taken care of. So we'd just like to seek your approval on those field trips.
So moved. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I may be on the DC trip.
DC trip.
Could be trouble.
For them or you?
For them.
Are you a student or a chaperone?
I wish
Watch
I was a
over my
student.
child. I'll watch over my child.
I would be a chaperone, thank you very much.
Well, all in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay. All right.
The next one are two policies that we had from the School Board Association's customization with the updates. They were the two that we pulled out. It's policy 1720, 4015, and 7225, and then 79, policy 9125. We wanted Kim to look at. She's looked at both of those. Feels like they're good as presented, so we just like to seek approval on those.
It was actually a grammatical error. One of them, I thought. Just to prove I could see.
I was going to say, that's just proof if you read it right.
If you'll
But
let me-
anyway,
if
I'll
you'll let me
address
know,
it to you later.
We'll
Yeah.
approve it with the error
Right.
corrected.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Oh, I did find it.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
which one is it?
Under the second one, under goals, it's got of and then blank percent.
Which one?
A, under
Which
the
policy?
second attachment, 912.
Is it policy 9125? Which
We
one?
probably need to put that in.
Which policy?
It's not even
Okay. Okay.
with Mr. Diamond.
It's blank, it just says of a percentage, and I thought for posterity, that I need to have a percentage in there. Did you find it?
Yeah, it says after notice and public hearing, the board hereby adopts an aspirational, verifiable percentage goals of blank percent for participation by minority businesses in the total value of work for each building project costing $300,000 or more.
So what percent should that be?
Allison, what do they look like across the state?
It depends on the percentage of minority businesses that you have in your community, including 15, 20, I mean, it depends.
10 is down below it. It says, in addition, the board adopts the state's aspirational verifiable goal of 10% participation. Would 10% be good enough?
It's aspirational, you can't have it quoted anyway, so it's aspirational.
I don't know what that means.
It means that you hope to get that many, but you're not promising to get that many.
To aspire to get, yes, 10%.
Because you can't
15.
have a quote.
15.
Not allowed any.
With your approval, we'll have 10% there.
Okay.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you. Well, I remember when I read it, I thought that probably needs to have something in there, and then I forgot where it was.
Okay. Okay.
Randy, we good?
That's all the easy stuff.
Okay. All right. We're going to move back up on the agenda here. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Phipps for the next item.
Ms. Allison?
Yeah.
Part of the School Board Association's superintendent search process, we've asked Allison to come back and do some more presentation, sharing some information with you all as you go through the process. So we turn it over to you at this point. Thank you for being here.
Should I get up here? Is that, I was guessing. Thanks for having me back. This is to actually get you started. So last time I was here, you guys decided you would use our services, and again, thank you very much. We have shared with the board ahead of time on internet some documents that we need to get your approval on and editing of before we can get started. So that's why we need to come before you. So in the folders that I've given you are the same materials that were shared with you online, but fortuitously, I brought copies because apparently your internet is a little bit troublesome today. So we need the memorandum on the right-hand side of your folders talks about the things that we need approval from. So we're just going to go through those real quickly. I'm not sure. Remember, we bring you the drafts, but it's your search. So if there's anything you want to change, that's great. But we just do need some guidance from you. So the first thing behind that memo that explains what's in your packet is this timeline, which has some colors on it. blue and with yellow. The only date you actually need to approve is the application deadline. We normally recommend 8 weeks of advertising. That we found that 8 weeks you get the maximum amount of applications, and less than that you start to get less. The minimum we would recommend is 6 weeks, but this is normally what we recommend is 8 weeks of advertising. So that's the only thing you really need to approve. The rest of these are kind of target dates, just to give you an idea of how long it's going to take. So we would need, Mr. Chairman, a vote to approve that if the board's okay with the July 30 deadline.
Are we ready to start advertising tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll have it up and ready.
All right. That's the reason why we're paying you.
Do we need to move this to an action
I got
item?
a staff back there, I'll call it in.
Well,
and
it's
bring it
on,
back.
well, technically, this is no action, but we need to amend our agenda to take action on this, because it's under our no action item. So can we just get a motion to amend to act on this?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
No, it has to be an action item. Why does it have- does that- Because we're
Because we're taking
establishing a date.
action. That's right, we're establishing a date.
And there'll be a lot of other action items here too.
Okay, all right, so, all right, we got a motion, a second, then we amend the agenda to take care of what needs necessary with the School Board Association to get this search started. Okay, that sound good? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. You got it, Lee? Write it, make it look pretty in the minutes, okay? All right.
We're only amending
This,
the agenda, but are we going to vote on this?
we're getting ready to do that right now. We're getting ready to do it. All right, you've heard the recommendation of 8 weeks for our search ending on July 30th. Do I have a motion to accept?
So
this
moved.
thing?
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
I will say that we've already had a significant amount of interest, even if people didn't know that we were doing research and they were calling us asking if we were doing it, because you do have a significant amount of interest. I just wanted to make you feel better, because that should make you feel good. It made me feel good. We also, the next document is an advertisement. So we have drafted up an advertisement based on your demographics here. I'm just going to go through paragraph by paragraph, explain what these are, and if there are any changes. What they want this to do is reflect what you want to say about your school system and your community, that folks that are looking at your district can go to and sort of get their interest up. The first is just an announcement that you're seeking a superintendent, and they have to meet the legal requirements to be a superintendent or meet the state board's alternative guidelines. We'll explain that as we go through the process. It says we recommend something like central office and building level experience are preferred, and the doctorate degree, progress toward a doctorate degree or doctorate degree are preferred but not required. We don't recommend that you require those things, because you could find a candidate that doesn't have those but is your ideal candidate otherwise. So that's why that language gives an idea that you'll have preference for those people, but they're not going to exclude the other folks. And then the legal requirement that a successful candidate live in Beaufort County, that's in our state law. So that for first paragraph, and then we'll have the due date. Any changes to that?
I do have a question. Where it says they're required to live here, is that from day one, or is there a time allotment if, say, we pick someone that needs some leeway because maybe they live within an hour, and for the first, I just want to be able to answer a question if that's what we're asked.
The law does not specify that, but I think sometimes candidates have trouble finding a place, or they can't sell their house.
Right.
It says reside in the statute, so they could get an apartment here or whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean the first day, but most candidates at least have a place to live here the first day, even if they haven't with their families here.
Okay.
And most boards are reasonable about giving them a reasonable amount of time, because usually you're only getting like a month's notice that you're going to pick up your family and move. So, so I think you have the flexibility to. I've never had anybody. The board be challenged by anyone on that if their superintendent's planning to move but just can't get there quite away. So I think you can take a little bit of flexibility as you find appropriate, and some of that can be negotiated in the contract.
Okay.
I think in years past, I think this board's been very accommodating to work with, because they understand.
Right. You mean if they have a house to sell somewhere and their children want to finish, their last year's school or whatever. So, but again, the law says reside, which means you don't necessarily have to move your family here under the law. You're just supposed to have a residence here. So, okay. The next one is a successful candidate must demonstrate ability and success in all these things. This is kind of a laundry list of everything a superintendent is supposed to do. We haven't gone through your profile development yet, which for the reason that we want to get the survey results back first. So this is kind of a generic, list of things that you think are important. Is there anything you want to add or subtract there? It's, instructional leadership, curriculum development, leadership, goal setting. It's pretty complete, but if there's anything you don't want or want to add in there, please let me know.
Pretty well covered there.
Yeah.
We tried to make it, walks on water is the last one.
That's
Okay. The next one talks about your school board and how many schools you have, your board, nine-member partisan board, how many students you have. Is there anything in here that you think is inaccurate? We take this off the school websites, so sometimes we're not up to date. We want to make sure everything's correct.
I think we need to amend the numbers too.
Yeah, we don't have over 7,000. We're close to it, but we don't have.
6,800.
How much?
6,800.
So
It's like almost 7,000.
almost 7,000.
Yeah, it's just a range, more or less.
Yeah, just to give them an idea.
If they're going to apply 6,800, we stop them from 7,000.
No.
Right.
We want this to be accurate, but we're just trying to give them an idea of how big the school system is. It's not 300 kids, it's not 20,000 kids. It's 7,000. Okay.
Right.
Anything else in here that you want to say? We put in your mission statement and all that kind of thing. So we tried to capture it. We also have websites there for them to go to get more information about the school system. And if there's anything else that you want us to add or anything to take away or change, let us know. Is there anything else?
Paint a rather beautiful picture.
It's a beautiful place. You all have chosen to live your life seriously. I'm sure you're committed to it. Okay, the next one is just what we took off of your Chamber of Commerce website about a description of the county, how many residents it has, etc. Is there anything that you would like to change or add or subtract here? The fourth paragraph?
Oh, the last paragraph. Oh, on this page.
It's just to give them a flavor for what's in the community, what kind of community it is, how big it is, and also, again, some websites that they could go to get information about the different towns and your newspaper websites. Anything change?
A good candidate will have all this already checked out.
They should.
Yeah,
They
they've
should.
already
This
done
gives them a tool, though. This is the first they're seeing of the opening, though. This gives them a tool to start checking out this.
Right.
Then the last paragraph is just how you get an application, etc. So with the exception of changing the word all over to almost 7,000 students, would that change, would like an approval of that as well?
Okay, all right. You've heard the request. Do I have a motion to accept?
Yeah, motion with the
Second.
amendment.
Okay, motion with the amendment. Got a second? Second. Carol?
Sorry, Michael, I cut you off. Finish.
Seeing no more discussion, all in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, motion approved.
Okay. The next document is advertising options. Most of the advertising is done free on the internet these days. When I first started doing this when I was in private law practice, it would cost $750 for one ad in one local newspaper, and you weren't targeting the audience you want. This is a specialized group, and with the internet these days, you can do a lot of stuff free on the web. We do recommend one national place to advertise with the American Association of School Administrators. It's $559 for 30 days and $799 for 60 days. What we do find pretty consistently is that half of the applicants approximately are from out of state in every search that we do. And this is the way that this really will reach anywhere in the country. You can have people who used to live in North Carolina that are living outside that work from home. You can have people from Virginia or South Carolina that are experienced superintendents and want to come next. They're retired there and they want to come here. So it's a good idea to be able to reach out to folks, not just in North Carolina, because there's good folks out there too. So we do recommend, either 30 or 90 days for that one paid place, and the rest is free. And as I said, 30 years ago or 20 years ago when I was doing the school law stuff on behalf of boards, it was $750 just for one paid newspaper that didn't really reach your audience. So.
Do you recommend 60 days?
I do.
Yeah. Got it.
So we would need, the only thing we would need approval of is that one paid place, and the rest, if you're okay with this list on the front page. The second page is just options that we don't necessarily recommend, but that some boards have chosen to use if they wanted to target specialized communities or specialized groups. But if the board wants any of those, we could add those, but those are the ones that cost. But the only paid one we actually recommend is the one on the first page.
move approval that we go with the 60 days and the rest of the free sites.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. That sounds good.
Okay, the next document is the application form. As I think I told you when I was here last time, we are on, our application is online, and it's great because people can, fill out the material and submit it electronically, and then we can get it to you electronically. And that's been, I see you all are online with your board meetings, and we try to be as much online as possible. So this is a long application. Most of it is just routine stuff. Where have you worked? Where did you go to school? What organizations do you belong to? Have you ever been convicted of a criminal offense? That kind of stuff. There are 2 pages, however, where we would ask that the board make some choices. And that's on page 9 and 10 of this document. And that is, on page 9, it's short answer questions. So this is too many questions to ask, but this is basically a menu. And we would suggest you ask between 4 to 6 questions, and just these are short answer questions. And this is really sort of describe your accomplishments or experiences, and to just give you an idea of what their background is. So the issue is what the board is most interested in. And I mean, I think the way this works best is just to throw out those of you that are interested in some specific one of these, or if you have another area that's not on here, just let me know.
When I was questioned about a superintendent a year ago, they did ask me all of these things. They asked every one of them, which was fine. I guess I gave too glowing a report.
So which ones of these are you most interested in? Remember, this is a screening tool. Let's talk about the application. It's a screening tool. You want information that will allow you to decide whether you want to talk to this person in an interview or not. So you're not going to ask them all the questions possible. You can ask more questions in the interviews. But this is an idea of what is most important to us to know before we decide whether to interview this person or not. So which of these do you think is most important to you?
Is that because you tell them ahead of time that they're going to be limited to those questions?
No, the board is just asking them to answer these questions in the application.
And you only want us to include a few of them in the
Yeah, this is too
application.
many to ask them to fill out. It's a really long application otherwise, so.
But they need to be prepared to answer any and all of these.
The
during
other
the
questions
interview.
will come later.
Right, yeah,
I just wanted to
yeah.
make sure we were going to be able to address this. at some
Believe me,
point.
How many of
Other
those questions do you recommend?
4 to 6.
Of the short answers?
Of these, yeah.
Important. Yeah,
The first 5.
I definitely want 1 and 2.
1 and 2, so financial and instructional. Anything else that you guys are particularly?
I just read the first 5 and based off of the 10 there.
4 and 5 is what I would
4 and
recommend.
5,
How about number 6, be critical to this area?
community relations. Somebody else said the first 5. Is 3, 7, 8, 9, or 10, any particular one of those you guys were really
Well,
wanting?
in today's world,
Number
number
8.
9.
Number 8.
Number 8, all right.
It's hard to, that's why it's hard to leave any of these out because you see an importance, but it is,
Okay.
Again, this is not your first, this is your first
Right.
crack at them, not their last one for the ones that you're
Cool.
interested in, so. So right now I have 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 8. Is that a good amount? And then we have another on the next, if those are okay, on the next page. Again, these are essay questions, and the first set was about what are your experiences and strengths, and this one are more general questions about how you would operate in the school system if you came, or why you're interested in coming here. So we suggest 3 or 4 of these, or again, you can add something else if you want something else. What is going to allow you to screen in or out is the question.
I like 95.
and I definitely would want to know, number 1, why you're leaving where you are.
I want to know number 2.
2 is how the board and superintendent work together. Number 1 is where you're living. Why do you want to come here?
I think number 3 is
Good.
it's good, but that's a question we can ask at some
Later,
point.
you can ask that one later.
Okay.
Because it kind of almost comes in with some questions on the
But
other
number 5
page.
you can too.
Okay.
She said 1.
How many of these did you want?
3 or 4. I have numbers 1 and 2 right now. Is there anything else?
I would think number 4, what they believe they possess that makes them qualified.
So
That's
I
their,
would just round it off and make it the first 4. Because 3 is important as well, but we can certainly
Ask that,
get
yeah.
more detail into that.
That's why I think that can be left off.
Are we okay to add 3, and then you can get it, you can ask more specifics.
Okay.
All right, numbers 1 through 4, perfect.
All right, everybody okay with that?
Mr. Chairman, I would need approval of the application with the selections made by the board.
Okay.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
All right, got a motion?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
And the last documents I have for your consideration are the surveys, the community and staff surveys. What we do recommend surveys as a way to get community and staff input. We have 2 sets here. One is more nuanced and one is easier and quicker, but doesn't give you as much sort of drill down information. Boards prefer different ones depending on the board. You'll find, so number 1 is just a straightforward, what's the most important thing, and you go through and you give your demographics. Number 2 is more, tell us the top 5 things you think are important, what are our strengths, and it's really what information you want. The number 2 is the more drilled down information. It requires more thought and more time. So you're probably going to get fewer, but you're going to get more rich information. We do recommend you do a community and staff separate. Even the questions are the same, but it's really interesting to see the differences in what the staff thinks is important versus what the community thinks is important. Sometimes it's distinct from each other, and sometimes they're right on track. So I think that's just useful information.
How will the community have access other than online?
Well, we can do that several ways. First of all, the staff usually goes through your internal system. The community, we would ask the newspapers to work with your superintendent staff to get the newspapers and other press locally to get that information out. We have the online links will be put on your website. We'll work with them on that. And then we can make paper copies as well, and have them distributed wherever you want them distributed. Just need to help with your staff collecting them, putting them in boxes at the schools or at the public library or whatever. So if you want to make public paper copies available, we can send you a version that's a paper copy for people to fill out and submit back to the central office, and then they'll get it back to us.
What kind of response do you really get on this? From
Assistant.
the end of the school year, I'm even thinking some of the staff will go, yeah, well, they're done, so check that.
Yeah, I mean, the timing is unfortunate for that reason, but they still have access, I would assume, to their school accounts if they're,
Oh, sure.
if they're still getting their emails. We normally see about 200, for a district this size, about 200 of each. And remember what this is. This isn't like you have to, it's not a scientific survey, you don't have to respond. It's for people who want to say something, to have an opportunity to say it to the board. The surveys are anonymous but not confidential, which means it's public record what people say unless it's protected by the personnel laws, in which case we would present a redacted version for public release. But the board will see everything. So if people say, please hire so-and-so, or don't hire so-and-so, or I like this person, or I don't like that person, that has to come out by law in the public version, but the board will see all those comments. So at the end of each of these, there's an open-ended place for people to write in whatever they feel like is important. And it's an opportunity to communicate with the board. You also have, as opportunities for input, if you have public comment sessions in your board meetings as monthly, and those is an opportunity for people to come say something. Some boards choose to do public forums, but with this opportunity and your opportunity at your board meetings, that's probably not necessary. Our experience with forums is that 1 or 2 people come. And if you have a special board meeting for that, you do have time set aside at your regular meeting for that. So this is an opportunity for people to do it from the comfort of their home, especially with staff being on vacation. So, and then the other thing that we do encourage is for the board to encourage any organizations that want to make an organizational statement to send that to us, or send it through the board to us. And that would be if you're PTA, or if you're a Chamber of Commerce, or your Council of Churches, whatever as local organizations are, if they have a statement that they want to make as an organization, your health department, whatever the issues are. And your county commissioners sometimes would submit something. We want to see a leader who does the following things. And those would be where they come together, the leadership of those organizations come together, and they decide what they want as an organization to say. This other stuff is individuals saying what it's on their personal minds. So it's just a different way of getting additional input. We will collect all the information that you get as input, and we will come back to a board meeting, probably in your July board meeting, and present that. And then we will work with the board to develop a profile that is informed by your community and staff input and your other input. as well as what the board's concerns are. So that's kind of the process to walk you through about what it looks like. The idea is that that's when you develop your profile, because you want your community input before you develop your profile. If you were to wait until after you develop your profile, and that would be after your surveys, it would slow you down, which is why we have a more generic advertisement, if that makes sense.
Should we send the same survey out to the staff that we do to the
It
community?
makes it's more useful because you can compare the concerns of the staff and the community. So it's better to do it that way. And I mean, either one of these will work. You'll get input from either one.
The reason I was thinking, survey number 2, I was thinking it seems like it'd be better geared towards staff.
Yeah.
Whereas survey 1 would be better geared towards community.
And I understand, I agree with that. But you do want to be able to compare the concerns of the staff.
Right. So I think I would, for that, I don't know which one I'm looking to now.
I'd go for.
I think I'd go for
green.
survey 2.
Yeah, I agree,
Green.
because it's more detailed.
You get more nuanced information.
Yeah,
You know,
that's-
as
yeah.
opposed to just, yeah, this is important, this is important.
Now, did you mention the timeline on this survey? Is it, you would like to have it out like 30 days or?
We'll have it out, if you look back at the draft timeline that we have,
Right.
we have targeted your July 17 meeting to.
Okay, so it would be a little over 30 days.
So the staff, yeah, the surveys would come in by July 9. We just cut them off in enough time before the meeting to be able to get them processed.
Gotcha. Okay.
Survey will turn in by July 9.
Yeah, so, that'll be on the survey itself. And we will ask that you post it on your website through your staff. And that you get it out to your, and you all can talk it up too. And don't worry again, if you have 150 instead of 200 or 100 instead of 200, it's people having an opportunity to say something. You have a really good school system and you have a stable school system, and sometimes we get more comments when people are angry about something that's going on, and I don't sense y'all are in that situation. So it may be a good sign if you don't get a lot of input. The people trust you and they know that you're going to do a good thing for them. So I'm hearing the green. I'm hearing.
All right. I'll make a motion to go with survey 2.
Okay.
Green survey.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Full agreement.
Okay, I do have something else for you that you don't need to approve, but that's all the documents we need to approve, and we will start getting them up tomorrow and getting the ads out tomorrow. So, as I told you, we have an online system for accessing confidential information. We used to ask you for your personal email addresses and stuff would go to your personal email addresses, but this works better. So we take all the applications and anything confidential and we load it on Assembly, which is what we use at the School Board Association. I was familiar with it. But we'll probably change your password so that it's not as easy to access. But
Okay.
we'll get up with you on that. But here we have, what I have here for you are directions on how to access that system and your own little blue card that has your confidential access information on it. This is like you need a credit card or something confidential. You don't want anybody else to have this. But all of the confidential information will come to you and will be posted on this website. All the applications, anything about candidates, anything with candidates' names, the surveys with confidential information that's included will all be posted there. And we'll send you an email to your school system address that says, please check the Simply website. And this is what's up there. Generally it's the interview schedule or the application materials. The other thing I will tell you is that in the application materials, we do, after we get the application materials, it takes us about 2 weeks to get them all compiled. We have to download them from one system and onto another. And we also do an internet search for every candidate that will allow us to access what's out there in the big wide web, the world of the web. And we'll do some other stuff that will allow you to easily access the materials and to make it more easy for you to go through them. So, any questions about that? If not, I'll just hand these out.
Okay.
And the white paper is just explanations on how to get on there, and each of you has your own individual thing. Please put that in your wallet, that little blue card, so that you can access it when you need to. And if there's stuff that you want to see on paper, you are always free to, she's not here, you are always free to print it off yourself if you have, if you want to see some specific applications or write on them. But that's up to y'all. So
But you will be providing us copies when
No, it would be online.
It'll be all online.
Everything's online.
Again, it's very expensive to copy and it would add significantly to your bill. Plus, like I said, if you want to look at them, you may not want all of them. You may look at some and say, well, I really want to start with these 5 because they're the ones that have the most experience or whatever the issue is. And so you can run those off in your home if you want to, but just make sure you keep all this information confidential. As you know, the personnel laws require that you keep information confidential. That is personnel information, and all this will be personnel information. So make sure, and it's very highly confidential. There will be a lot of public interest in it. A lot of the people who apply are sitting superintendents. They do not want it out there that they're applying. Just like if you were applying for a new job, you might not want your bosses to know, and the world to know. So it's really important that you keep this stuff confidential. It's required by law. It's a criminal misdemeanor to share it. So it's just really, we try to really be careful about the confidentiality of this. It helps us get better applicants that way too. So. I talked fast and I said a lot. Is there anything else that you guys have questions about?
Can I ask a few questions? I
Absolutely.
apologize for being late, and you may have already addressed some of these, because I made a few notes. Going back on the memorandum page, the last paragraph, and this may be a conversation more here. I had made a note, do we have a copy when Don was hired?
A copy of what?
What you're talking about, the announcement, vacancy announcement.
Yeah, we took that and we started with that as a base.
Okay.
So that's been approved as it is.
And there seemed to be some timeline is subject to further changes to paragraph previously, but we've already discussed the timeline, and it sounds like.
The only thing the board approved was the application deadline. As I said, the rest is just informational at this point.
Okay.
So we're not wedded to any of those dates. Those are just there to give you some targets. And as you can see, some of them are just ranges. So the board decided that the application deadline would be the 30th of July, but that's the only decision that was made.
All right. Did we, on the advertising, did we go with the additional $799? Very good. You already answered the questions on the specific questions. Oh. After the applications are received and processed by NCSBA, each board member will be able to sign in. That's the piece that you just gave us. Will we be able to print at home?
Yes, you will be able to print it.
Okay.
And on that sheet that I gave you, there's a person to call if you have any problems at all accessing it. And you can always email me or my staff, over the weekend if you're having any trouble. But we are accessible 24/7. So we all have cell phones and emails and texts and everything. So.
Well, you have your work cut out for you.
Well, we love doing this. It's probably the most important decision the board makes, and we are here as the School Boards Association to support you. That's our job.
And you
love what we
pointed out
do.
that you're ready to start with all this tomorrow, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
What can we talk about publicly? What should we not say? How about that's the easiest thing, maybe?
Well, first of all, if you can not talk about individual candidates or anything about who you want to hire or who might be applying or anything like that. I think you can talk about the process, which is fine. We just talked about that today in public session. This is all the process itself is public. So if you do get calls from individuals, I didn't mention this, but I will say this: if you do get calls from individuals who want to talk to you about being a candidate, I would encourage you to send them to us, to me. My name is on that information and you have my contact information, but rather than having an individual conversation with folks, because what happens is you don't want somebody to feel like, well, this board member is going to, this candidate feel that they have an inside line with this board member, and it just makes everybody feel like they aren't not getting all the information. One of our goals is to make you all feel like you're treated the same and you all get the same information, and so it's to the candidate's benefit to come to us too. So if you do get people calling you wanting to talk to you about it, just refer them to us. And it's better if you get the same information at the same time. That's kind of one of the things I forgot to talk about.
Are we allowed to talk about candidates within a closed session as a board with each other, or is that really something we shouldn't do until we're ready to interview?
Well, this is what happens. You get the applications, and you have a few weeks probably to look at them. And what we ask that you do is each separately come to a conclusion about which candidates you personally think you want to interview. As a discussion starter, we ask that you come to the board meeting after you've looked at the applications, before you talk to each other, and make your own independent judgments about who you think you're most interested in. And then we will facilitate a meeting with you about who you want to interview, and everybody will give their choices, and then that's a discussion starter, because not everybody always has the same candidates. So the idea is just to everybody have their own independent judgment, come together, and then that whole meeting is talking about who you want to interview and why. One of the things we will do when we have after we have the survey meeting, we'll take your profile back, as we will come up with a rating sheet that is based on your profile. That will allow you some guidelines about what the board thinks is important. And so that's one of the tools that we will provide for you. So we do think some independence at first is great, and to not make any decisions before you see all the applications. So that's why we think you should wait until that meeting, so you see all of who's applied, and have a chance to look at all the materials before you make any decisions about who you're interested in.
But we're not forbidden.
No.
If we decided as a board we wanted
Absolutely.
to discuss a candidate in closed session, we could do
But
that.
you won't know who they are until you'll know who they all are at the same time. So because we try not to share any specific information about specific
Well-
candidates until you get it out.
There's gonna be some that we're gonna know who they are because people are gonna start talking about it. I mean, that's Beaufort County. I mean, especially the local people.
They already, there's already some names out
Yeah,
there.
I'm already hearing names of people
I think the
that,
best thing you can do in that circumstance is just say, I cannot discuss it.
Okay.
Or if somebody says, I know so-and-so might be interested, and say, if anybody's interested, have them call the School Board Association. Or the advertisements up on the website, whatever, okay? So just refer them to us, and don't get involved in discussions about who, because you don't want there to be an impression that you've already made a decision before the whole board, the whole board gets to make the decision, not just one individual.
I mean, actually, I think it was the day after he announced.
People start calling.
I had somebody call me already making recommendations for somebody else. I'm like, okay.
I think that's what I mean about sharing process. Well, we're using the School Boards Association. Please have them call the School Boards Association, Allison Schaefer at the School Boards Association, if they're interested, or go on the School Boards Association website. It'll be posted on our website how to access the applications and all that stuff. So process is great. Please, we want as many good applicants as possible. And so just that's the best way, I think, to do it. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah.
And
Well, I was to say, Dr. Phillips, I think it'd be good if we could put on our website or somewhere kind of should we post this draft timeline? Because I've got a lot of people who already asked me, have y'all hired somebody yet? I'm like, no. I mean, really?
That should be a public decision. It should be in the newspaper.
Yeah.
We certainly can. I mean, or you could say the board hopes to make, after the deadline is the 30th of July, the board hopes to make a final decision by, and that's in the timeline.
Right.
And that you don't probably need to know every single detail.
Yeah, just.
Those two things we could talk about.
But I think you're right. I think if the community knows, you can ask us 100 different things, but until we have all the applications, we're not even really going to begin to talk about candidates, so they can sit tight to July 30th.
Yeah, and I mean, we're looking at least a 4 or 5 month process here.
And in fairness to the community, it's out of concern and hope that we're doing a good job of picking whomever it's going to be. So I'm not upset that they might be asking, but if they know that we'll know nothing before then.
The other thing that they can do is fill out a survey. So if they're interested in input, just say, please fill out a survey so it can be in our records and we can share it with the whole board. And I think that's really important. Or if you have something you want to talk to the board about, come to the board meeting and talk in our public comments.
An announcement of the survey will be on the school website, right?
It'll
Not
be-
just a link, but an announcement to find the link and.
We're going to try to work with your press and whoever the right person is to work with to get that information all as publicized as possible. But you all have that's part of your job too, is to get it out there that people have the survey available and encourage them to, especially the ones that want to say something. In the surveys, they can put, please hire so-and-so, or I like so-and-so, or did you consider so-and-so? They can do that in that document, and that will stay confidential because we'll redact that stuff out for the public. So the board will see those things. But so that's where the best place to put it.
But we don't need to discuss it.
You don't need to, especially people, and just, you can say, If you have great candidates that you think would be interested, please have them apply. If you go to our website, you'll find the information.
Well, hopefully the timeline, and it'll get out there anyway, because this meeting's going to be posted online, and plus Randy runs it on local stations every
Right.
day to the week. So if there's any bad news ever, it only takes about 15 minutes to cover the county. So hopefully this will get
The good
around in
ones
2
will
weeks.
That's right. Well, again, it's good your community's engaged. It's great. I think it's lovely your community's engaged, and obviously they care about their school system and they're interested in making sure you have a good replacement for a good superintendent, and hopefully we'll find you one or help find you one, and you guys will, obviously you're the decision makers. Our job is to find as many good candidates as possible, have a good professional process, and to get you good information about the candidates so you can make an informed decision. That's our job.
I think the former board obviously did a great job in selecting Dr. Phipps. That was before my time, but because of the municipal boards locally and the county commissioners, they've all expressed, sadness that he's leaving. So obviously they did a good job.
Thank you. We worked on that.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We expect you to do equally as good this time.
We'll do our best.
A little bit more.
So the other thing I will say to you is it will be a quiet time now between now and when you're going to get the applications. That's the time for the surveys to be completed, to talk to your community, and it's fine for you to talk to them and to listen to them about their concerns, but it won't make its way into the group information unless they fill out a survey. So I think if people want to come up and say something to you, that's great. Those are conversations that are completely appropriate. What are your concerns? What do you hope for our school system? And you hear that all the time anyway as board members, I'm sure. But it will be a quiet time in terms of the surveys. If you call me and ask me how many you have, how many applications we had the week before, I will not want to answer that question, because people who are working in school systems are busy people, and inevitably half of the applications come in on the last day, because that's what superintendents do. They meet their deadlines, or assistant superintendents. Okay, so just don't be nervous about that. But we have had good interest already, and people that have told me they're going to apply, which is early, so that's good. So.
And how many school systems are you working with filling a vacancy?
Including y'all 4,
Oh.
which is pretty standard for us. We just finished Wake and Cumberland and Caldwell.
So you had to bring that one up. Had to bring it up.
So you did finish Wake?
Yes, ma'am. They announced last week. They hired a woman who has been their deputy superintendent. So, anyway, I think that's all I can think of right now. But if there are any other questions, please let us know. We will be available to you, as I said, 24/7. Yes.
Yeah, the question I was going to ask, I've got a handful of questions. Do you have a sample packet of when we start to interview these folks of some questions?
Oh, yes.
That you would provide for us?
We do. We have a very long list of draft questions, and we'll have a process for how you select those. If you have your own questions, we'll provide, when we provide the applications, we will also provide some sample questions. We'll provide the background information. We'll provide the test scores from where the candidate came from. We'll get their university transcript. So there'll be a lot of information in the packet, but one of those is the questions.
Okay.
If you want to draft your own, if you not seeing what you want on that list, that's even better, because that'll be personally tailored questions. But
Well, you
definitely.
read the application and it
Right.
comes up with other questions, should
Right.
at least, so.
Most boards choose to ask the applicants all the same questions in the first interview, and then the individualized question the second time, just so that they can compare the applicants. But you can do it however you want. It's your process, and that's the other thing I'm going to emphasize again. We're here to help you do drafts, get you good information, but if you want to do it a different way than what the standard way is, or what we traditionally do, it's your choice. So we're here to do what you need to have done. Okay?
How long does it take to do a background check on an applicant?
Well, there are several different kinds of things you do background checks on. First of all, you do a criminal and credit check, and that is we do that with a contracted company. It's out of Durham actually, but they have a national business, and a lot of our other state school associations work with them. That takes a week-ish or so. But then we also do reference checking, and some of you have answered my questions about different people over the years. we do the reference checking ourselves. And so it takes a while. We don't start checking references until the candidates have told us they've spoken to their employers, because that's just common courtesy. And then we will spend a lot of time. Our questionnaire at references is quite detailed, and it takes a long time. And so we try to be as thorough as possible. That's why we don't do the reference checking until between the first interviews and the second interviews, because it's usually for about 3 people, and it takes a substantial amount of time. But we try to be as thorough as possible.
Now, what about background checks? Do you do background checks on every applicant?
Not every applicant. What we do, well, this is what we do for every applicant. We will do an internet search for every applicant and get you information out there about whether they've been in the newspapers because there's lawsuits against them, or whether they've resigned from their job under fire, whether they've gotten superintendent of the year or whatever. We'll do that and include that with all the applications. We do the rest of the background check, the references and the criminal and credit check only for the finalists. We don't think it's necessary to intrude on people's lives if you're not seriously interested in them.
Okay.
So, because otherwise, yeah, you're messing with their current employment, and if you're not serious about that, that's not necessary. So, any other questions? Because I'm here.
Thank you.
Okay, I've done this over 150 times now, so hopefully you'll get the benefit of that.
So this is not your first rodeo?
No, not with you all either. Okay, great to see all of you. If you have any questions, let us know. But like I said, right now, we need you to be encouraging your community and staff to give input, and then we'll get you the information when it's ready. And we'll see you back at your July 17th meeting to talk about the surveys. Okay?
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Good discussion. Okay. Moving down on our agenda, item 6.1, capital update. Stan? How was everything at the Ed Tech Center?
Good, good.
Good? All right, good.
Took ISO and made sure it was all tidied up.
Randy was there to help you too, right?
Yep, he was there.
Your finance officer will need to attest.
Go right ahead.
Capital update, and this is just for information. This has been since our last budget work in session and everything else. They have decommissioned the bus lift over at the bus garage due to safety reasons. The lift is 15 years old. Mr. Jerry is getting replacement costs and stuff for it, but we will either have to replace it or come up, and his alternate would be to buy a bus washer, but he didn't know where that falls in there at neither. But that's what they use the lift for, to put the bus up and wash underneath and clean it annually. So he wanted me to make sure y'all were aware, but that lift was taken out of service. All right, the capital. I have 2 items or really 3 items for approval tonight. 2 involving money. Bath Elementary cafeteria roof. We received 2 sealed bids from Curtis Construction of Kinston and Curtis Inc. of Kinston. Curtis Inc. was the low bidder at $7,812.50. It is my recommendation that we have Curtis to install a new roof system as specified in our RFP. The budget allowance for this project was $16,600. You want to approve both of these or all these at one time, or how do you want to do it?
Yeah, that'd be fine. If that's all right with the board.
Yeah, let's do it together.
Okay.
Same time.
These 2 together, they involve in money. Building 4 testing roof. We're also sending out RFPs and had the same 2 companies reply. And Curtis Inc. was the low bidder at $4,375. So that's my recommendation that we move forward as specified in the RFP with this project. Budget allowance was $20,000. And I know y'all going to ask why.
I was getting ready to ask you, did we change something?
The scope did change. Originally, we were looking at it, the chimney was a big factor in that roof over there. And since we originally put the money in for the scope of work, we waterproofed and sealed the chimney instead of having the company do it. We did it with our roofers because we were having so much water come through the roof. So we actually corrected the chimney part that would have been part of that scope of work. So that was a large part of it. additional questions?
It just shocks me the difference between the two bids, that's one's 50% more.
Yeah, what is
And
the
the
difference?
last time, they were the exact
What's the
opposite.
difference? They don't look to be any different. You're talking about the Bath Elementary, right?
So both of them, both of those bids were,
And I called to confirm
Like night
that
and day.
he was meeting our compliance and our RFP, and he said, yes, that's what I'm putting on, so.
You told us once before about Curtis and then Curtis and Curtis. What is that again? Tell me again.
Originally, Curtis Construction was the original company owner. He decided to retire, sold his business. Some other fellows bought it and kept the Curtis Construction name. He decided later to go in business with his son, and they started Curtis and Curtis. So
Curtis is who started.
Curtis Construction is no relation to Curtis. It was very confusing to start with.
But Curtis and Curtis is.
It's Curtis.
It's Curtis.
It's Curtis.
I got it.
Any further discussion on these two bid requests?
move approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay.
The next one is for Kugler Field, demolition of a building. You can see an attached Google map is your first picture. It shows it on 5th Street, got a yellow pin on top of it. This building is shown in a couple other pictures. It is in very, very bad disrepair. Mark Dunn was down this past week, Tuesday I think it was, looking at it, and it's a accident waiting to happen. Termites have eaten it up and rot, and the tins come off of it, and where it went, we
Yeah, I
don't
think
know.
Alberto would have come up this way and taken care of it for you.
I was going to say, if you just brought this to us at the end of the summer, probably gone anyway. I think that.
We'll tear it down with our excavator and staff that we have, and the only thing it'll cost us is our tipping fee at the dump. But
Anything inside it?
No, sir, it's vacant.
One of the nails.
Take it down.
It's about to fall down.
Right, now, we're still responsible for this property, as long as we're
Be a lot.
using it of some kind.
Correct, Mr. Dunn looked at the lease and everything, it is ours, right?
For better or for worse, it's ours.
For worse.
This is, just as kind of a mom question, but when you do a demolition like that, and there is a lot of little pieces of scrap and metal and nails and stuff, you do go back and kind
Yes,
of,
ma'am, we have a
because there's so
big
many
roller
kids that
behind
get
you
out
that
there and
pick it
play
up,
barefooted.
like a roofer uses, and it'll pick up every little
Good.
fine piece of metal, and of
Just
course, we'll
making
rake
sure.
it and try to put some grass seed down so it will grow
Thanks.
in appearance. We also previously picked up everything on that property because there was a lot of old construction and pieces and parts, and we spent a whole day cleaning that property up so it'd be
Yeah,
nice,
somebody that had
usable.
been there for, I don't know, Midget League or Rec or something, said that y'all had done something, how much better it looked, because it looked
Thank you.
really bad.
Stan, what about the building behind home plate? I mean, that was a building that had.
That building is standing there. It's a physically sound building as far as the actual structure, but vagrants have used it, the bats use it.
But they done some work to it, didn't they?
Now, we fixed the one up on the other side of the field, on 4th Street
But
side.
didn't that used to be concession for church league softball and stuff years ago?
I think some other people have used it. They boarded up and they even welded the door shut, but people's kicked the doors in, and it is atrocious.
Yeah, for years and years and years, that was church league softball, that's where they played, and I think some people built it for concessions or something.
Wait a minute. If it's our property, who welded the doors up?
The city did during their time. Before I came here, it was the city's, and then since that time, it became back ours, and
I knew at one time we had a kind of a joint
joint thing.
partnership
Yeah.
on that thing, but now it's solely ours.
Correct.
That's it. Okay. All right, okay. All right, do we have a motion to allow the
Motion to do whatever they need to do.
to take the building down? Okay.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay. Thank y'all. That it?
That's it.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right, we've already handled 6.2 and 6.3. So now we need to have a motion to go into closed session.
I move that we go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A, 1, to prevent disclosure of confidential personnel files under General Statute 115C-321.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor of this motion say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Go in Okay, we are back in open session. I will entertain a motion that we accept the personnel report
So
that has
moved.
been presented. We got a motion and a second somewhere out here. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. All right, moving down to updates. We got to look at the calendar. I think it's got May and June together here. Yes.
We have the retirement dinner here shortly that we're going to go to.
Very short.
If you're able to help, be there if you're able to go. Minority Hiring Practices Committee is on the 5th at 5 o'clock. Graduations are on Saturday on the 9th. We have that scheduled. If you need it, we'll get it back to you. We moved up. The meeting that was on the 19th is now on the 12th of June. That'll be the board meeting, monthly meeting for June. Today is actually June's work session. And then we'll have a special call meeting on the 27th, and that's just to finish up the year-end closeouts. That's generally a very short meeting. And then we need to start thinking about the date for the meeting in July. We normally only do one. I need to be thinking about
We're
that.
gonna do it next meeting.
Yeah, we can do it next meeting, but I do need for us to look at another date other than July 17th. Okay? If y'all will, we'll talk about it at that time.
Yes, sir.
Okay? All right. Let's see, what else we got? I think we're, board member update. Anybody got anything?
Just want to let you know that the park is going well. We are waiting on some funds. We did make a presentation to the county commissioners, and the presentation was accepted. We're hoping that they will approving to give us $5,000 to go on our phase 1 that we are trying to finish. So we are gonna also do a presentation before the city council for a donation.
Anything else? Anybody? All right. Dr. Phipps, you got anything?
Wrapping up school year, testing's going on, starting to get those results back, but we appreciate folks that have come into Proctor and volunteering. We have our retirement banquet tonight. We're excited about recognizing those folks who are finally made it to the point of their career where they can enjoy some things outside of the work part of life.
Anybody else have anything? Speak now. All right. Ms. Pete, I'm waiting for a motion.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor? Say aye. Motion adjourned. Thank you, Randy.